Tell me.
All right, guys, welcome to another On the Mic session with myself, Alex Sivkorowski. Tonight, we've got a special guest from the Altona Knights and superstar and also the head coach of One Football Training, Camilo Marin. Camilo, thank you so much for joining us tonight. How are you going?
Good. How are you? I'm well. Thanks for having me.
No worries. It's a pleasure to have you. It's good to reach out to you. Start off, firstly, hope you're all well. And unfortunately, we are in a full lockdown for another couple more weeks. So hopefully we can get out of it. But tonight's about you. More so, look, tell us how you all got started in football from the very beginning.
From the very beginning, well, I started playing football when I was a little kid. You know, I'm from Colombia, so we start really early there. There's not many options, any other sport, so we all do football. So I got in myself into like an academy team.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got asked to go to a team that is really big. It's called America in Colombia, in Cali, where I'm from. And it's kind of similar to like a Melbourne or Melbourne City. So it's one of the biggest club in Colombia. And I was there for a bit, for around 2-3 years. And then after that, I decided to move into futsal. So things didn't go as well as I planned it to go in football. And I got an opportunity to play futsal, and then I started to play futsal in the professional team of Cali. In that time, I was in the under-20s, and then I trained with the professional side for a long time until I moved to Australia. That was pretty much it.
So tell us a little bit more about, I think it was called America de Cali. Tell us a little bit more around their setup and how it was for yourself starting off from football and then moving to futsal.
Well, with America, it was great. I have a lot of friends that are actually playing professional football now. There is so many that are really successful, and it was being in an environment where, as a youth player, we're training 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, 3 hours a day, and it's like it was actually full on for being a 12-year-old kid, training 3 hours and training full on all the time and playing on the weekends. So it was a very structural setup. Got to play that until I was 16, 17. Then, things on futsal started really different. I was playing at school, and then one of the coaches saw me playing at school, and he invited me to play futsal, and I really liked it. And it was also because they started giving me a little bit of money, and that means, I wasn't getting any money for football, and then I was getting money for futsal. So I was like, well, just got to play futsal, and I fall in love with the game. I think futsal is one of those games that if you don't play it, you don't really notice. But once you play it and once you start doing it, you just fall in love with it, and that's what happened to me. So in my mind was now I was a futsal player instead of being a football player, and I think being way more successful being playing futsal than football.
Tell us a little bit more about the league in itself. You mentioned it's a professional league, so they do get paid, which is a good thing. But the type of level you would expect, how would you compare it to, say, something like what we have here currently in Australia?
Well, the league at that point was actually started, but it's supported by the federation. So it's supported by the biggest, the biggest clubs have the futsal teams as well. So it was really good. As I said, everyone trains Monday to Friday, so the standards are really high. And it's players that they didn't get to be professional, so they got themselves into playing, indoor for a long time, and then a professional league come in, and they all move into play professional. So it's really high standards. I mean, the league, it's been growing a lot, and now Colombia's got players now everywhere of the world. So it's not as big as Brazil, but I think it is getting there. There's a few names that are already around the world.
Tell us some.
Sorry.
Tell us some of your heroes that you had back home. Some of the international players. I mean, the ones that come to mind for me are Rene Higuita, Carlos Valderrama, Faustino Esprilla. Who were some of your heroes when you were growing up?
Well, those names are they superheroes for us in Colombia, and I was really young when they were coming up. So Igit is one of those that you can't miss. You know, as a kid, you always want to go on goals, and you see a player that goes on goals and do these great things as well. So you always wanted to be like him. I was really little in that time as well. I got, I think Igit is one of those, and then got a couple of other players that are not as famous, but they really, really good. And now I think I'm a big fan of good football, so I like, Quintero, and I like Rodriguez, which is one of the best players. They're really technical and they don't have to run too much. And I think Colombia's been good for those kind of players like Valderrama.
Interesting move for Rodriguez. He might go to Atletico Madrid, the rumor is. Do you think that's a good move for him?
Mate, wherever he goes, he just needs to go somewhere else. That's what he needs to do. I think anything will be good at this stage. He needs to play. Wherever he goes, he needs to play.
You mentioned that you moved to Australia. Tell us a little bit more about that. Why the move? Did you have friends or family here, or was it just you thought that's where I want to go?
Well, it was around 6 years ago, and when I didn't have planned to move to Australia. I wanted to go to America, but things didn't work out to go to America, and I will say, well, in Australia you can work at least 20 hours and you can try to do your life in there. So I was like, well, I really want to learn English. I didn't really know any English, and I said, I'm going to try my luck. And I knew it. There's a friend of mine that it's still here. His name is Danilo. He was playing football and futsal here. And I wasn't really in contact with him in that moment because Facebook, I know those things were not as big as they are now. Yeah. And I said, look, as soon as I get there, I'm going to try to get around and try to see if I can play. And I didn't ended up talking to him for a while. When I came, I met Todd Myers, and he was the coach of Fezroy, and that's where everything started for me at futsal.
So you mentioned there Fezroy. Tell us your time at Fezroy. How was that?
Mate, I think it's one of the best times. I always say I learned so much. Learn as a person and as a futsal player as well. I had a bit of idea. I was coming from the setup, so when I came in here, I knew what I was doing. The courts were a little bit smaller, and environment was a bit different, but I learned so much, and I think I also made really good friends, and we had a really good group of friends. And that time was really funny for me because I couldn't communicate to anyone, but everyone made me feel really welcome. So it was I really had a great time there.
Who's your favorite teammate at Fezroy?
I would say Angelo Fusca. I think he plays a little bit on Ashburn now, but Angelo is an amazing guy to be around. I think it's always funny and always positive, which is really good. But in that team, we have great people. We have experience with Fernando, Mark. We have Junior. They all were amazing players. But on the other side, we have very youth players. There was Cossi coming in. There was Scotty coming in. Pepe. Myself, Angelo. We all were under 20s. We all were like 19. Oh, this guy Cossi was like 16, and Scotty were like 16.
Yeah. Obviously, there was someone. Who was your most annoying teammate at Fezroy, do you reckon?
Most annoying? I wouldn't say annoying. I will say that was actually, hard sometimes, and it was Gabi. But it was, Gabi Luzena. But I don't think it was because he was annoying. It was because he was really competitive. He would get really angry, and everyone else was really chill. So yeah, that's that. But and also, if you don't do things when you're playing with spirited players like Mark or with like Junior in that time, they will let you know you were not running enough or you were not doing the right things. But I don't think I had a teammate in that team that I'll say, oh, that was annoying,
Then you moved to Altona. What brought that about?
Well, I moved to a couple of teams, but I ended up in Altona because I had a bit of a knee injury that carried for a while and wasn't really playing as much. Then I went to play State League with Melbourne Athletic for a couple of games. And I knew it kind of from Hume because I play at Hume too. And he said to me, he messaged me, he was like, mate, you should just come to us. And I said, look, I'm unhappy. I want to get back into what's a good setup. And they said to me, we had a good project, and they do have a good project. I think a lot of people don't realize that the Serix boys, they've been trying to build this up for a while. It's not only, season or 2 seasons ago. Yeah. Since they went down to State League, they say, look, it's a project that they're building up, and I think it's going in the right way.
Which of the brothers is your favorite?
It's a hard question, mate. It's a very hard question. They all
came through. So it's one of the questions that people want to know. So which of the brothers?
Mackie is an amazing one. Like, I love him. Mackie's it's a great guy. But Freno, it's also a really good friend of mine too. David's more like, David's a coach, so you can't do anything to him. But no, they all very, very good boys, and they look after you as a friend, and they look after you as a player. They always there all the time. And I forgot Tony. It's also great as well.
Who's the most annoying player at Altona?
Oh, Mikey, definitely. Mikey gets upset and he yells at you, but he means it well, Yeah. I think those teams that are a lot of players, I don't think everyone can play an Altona, because you need to understand that these guys are not having a go at you. That's how they are, that's how they react. And that's it. But I mean, annoying, it's the same.
Now, you do have a Bachelor in Sports Science. Tell us a little bit more about that. What made you interested to do that?
Well, I mean, I started to do sport, to get into sports and to get myself a little bit educated about it, was because I thought, I was really close to become a professional footballer. I was really close to be successful playing futsal, but I didn't. And well, not that I didn't, but I didn't go as far as I wanted. So I say, well, what was in there that I couldn't do, and why couldn't I achieve what I wanted? So I said, look, I'm gonna understand all of this, and I'm gonna go into what's behind it. So I started to do sports science, and I fell in love with it, and I love it. I like the science of the body, getting them to understand how players work and how can I maximize potential of a player. And it can either be a 10-year-old kid, or it can either be, a senior player that it's already in their 30s that they're retiring. How can we maximize that player to be the best of they can be?
How important do you think that is for a player, like you mentioned, who's maybe a 10-year-old developing going forward, or a player in their mid-20s? How important is that to understand themselves? Because that could be the difference between them being just a futsal player, like you mentioned, or being a professional. Do you think?
Oh, definitely. I think, there is things like strength conditioning, or like things that are like making yourself understand how your body works and how much you can ask for. There's a lot of players that get injured all the time and they don't understand why. And I think there is so many more reasons behind it. And, that's also, players, as you said, they get to a point where they say, oh, I'm in my peak. And could you actually give a little bit more? That's the question I ask to all players I've seen, and, players that I coach, or can we get more out of you? So I think there is a very, a really close line to be successful and not to be successful. And a lot of players get up there and they don't push that little bit to become successful. So I think, body is something that you really need to understand in order for you to be on your highest potential.
Looking back now, obviously we've had a slow season. We only managed to play 2 games. What do you think was going to be different about Altona this season if let's say we continued on playing? What we would have seen different from last season?
Well, I mean, Altona is a team that I guess talking to the guys the other day, and I say to be patient, just because this is not a 1 season, 2 season sort of setup. The boys have been trying to get the same players every week, or the same players for 1 or 2 seasons, and they haven't been able to do that for a long time. And last season, and I think the season previous that one, we were able to build up a group, and now we pick up a couple of players that are also going to be there all the time. So I'll give you an example. Carlton, I remember Carlton a few years ago, and they were not in the position where they're now, but they did a project similar to the one that Altona's doing, and he's saying, all right, let's get people that really want the club, really want to be here, that really want to come every week, and that will make a change. Last season, we put up a battle against teams that are, before we were getting, very bad results. Now, last season, we did really well in some of those games. Don't get me wrong, we lost games, and that's where we went in this position that we have to play relegation. But even then, we weren't really not comfortable, but we really, sure that we were going to get past that. Before that was like, it was a 50-50. Now this time we're like, well, if we play well, that we didn't really, but if we play well, we'll be all right. So I think, this season was going to be probably, we were not going to be up there again, but we were going to be way more competitive to a lot of teams.
How do you keep Niko calm?
That's a hard one. I'll tell you, I think getting Niko was actually really good because, Dave it's a guy where that he really, I think a lot of people don't know how much he knows about the game. He actually knows a lot about the game, but he's a little bit more calm. He waits and analyzes what's happening. Well, Niko, it's just, he set up fire good in a second, and he yells at you, and sometimes you need that a little bit. So they do a good mix, and I think you need to tell Niko to relax a little bit sometimes. And, even Niko tells me, when I'm in the core, I become a different person. I'm really competitive. So he always have to say to me, so it's a good relationship. I think they do a good mix.
You spent some time at Elite Football. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, Elite, it's a new soccer center. So I knew the owners of the place, and then they got me on board because what I was studying and what I knew about it, and it was a great place. I think it's a great setup for players, football players, outdoor players that really want to grow in the game. I think, of course, it's a new business, so it's still growing a lot, but it's doing well. I mean, I have a lot of things to thanks to Elite. I'm not there anymore, but Elite, I think they're growing and they will be really, really good in future, as they already are as well.
Then you made a big change. You went to create your own coaching academy, you could call it, One Football. Tell us a little bit more. How did that come about? And, watching your videos, you seem very passionate when you're talking about it, and that's great to see. We can see that through the video. But tell us how that came about.
Well, it's the result of how I started to study sports science. When I decided to do a Bachelor of Sports Science, I said, I really want to help players to get to where I wanted to be. And that's why I said, when I move on from Elite, I said to them, I'm coaching groups in here, and I really want to coach those particular players to be able to grow them. And not saying that I'm not going to be able to coach bigger groups, but my idea is to always keep it as small as possible, just because that's what I want to do. I love it. So every time I'm coaching, I feel like I'm doing what I like. So I don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I do what I love. So it's a great project. I mean, every project it's harder to start at. Every project it's hard to get it out there. But I think the word of mouth is the best at the times when you can do. So I think I'm getting a lot of good feedback, and that's we're building still. So You
managed to bring another series futsal player from Carlton across. Tell us a little bit more how that came about.
Well, true. It's been a friend of mine for a long time. Before futsal, I think he got to know futsal because of me. Not because of me, but he knew it. I used to play, so he got himself around it and messaged a couple of clubs and stuff. But Arturo is a great guy, and I think he is the same thing as me. He's passionate about what he does, so he doesn't feel like we're working. He doesn't feel like we're doing a favor. We're doing what we love. So it's a great guy. And also we want to, you know, I'm a futsal player, so I want to learn how get one football to futsal, and we've been trying to get a couple of boys to the futsal loss competitions. So I think, you know, futsal it's amazing for football players as well. So well, we had a bit of a project to bring you know, personalized training sessions to futsal loss and to, you know, futsal, and, you know, build groups in futsal as well. So we were really looking forward to start the leagues and be able to play nationals this year. But yeah, it's all the projects as well. So, but to the top guy.
Yeah. Tell us, if you had a magic wand and you could change futsal in Australia, what would some of the things be that you would change?
Well, that's a hard question, but I will say I will get the federation to support Peter. I think Peter's been left alone with this, you know, project, and he is doing something that it's too hard for him to build up into whole Australia. So that's why in Melbourne we have the best league, because it's only him, you know. So I think I will say, you know, get the federation and get Football Australia to build that with him, that he has already know what it takes to create a community as it is. You know, I think it would be amazing to have something like an A-League or something, even like an MPL, that you play premierships everywhere. So I think they tried to do it, but it didn't really work as planned. So I will say, and also the clubs are going to be a little bit more committed. You know, it's hard for players. We always put it back in the players, but it's hard for players to go and work and then study, and then, you know, we all have outdoor training as well, because it's sometimes we do get money out of it. And when we're gonna have time to train? So it's hard for the clubs to organize actually players that can train. So I will say, you know, give us facilities, but only Peter can't do it himself. Only Futsal Loss can do it himself. So
yeah. If there's one thing, let's say if we sum up your career to date, what's the one thing that you're really proud about?
Well, I'm really proud of, you know, about the whole thing of coming into Australia and creating a life. That's something I would say I'm proud of. You know, when I got here, and there's a lot of people that can remember how my English was, or how kind of like even, you know, my football and things and knowledge instead in terms of everything. So now I can feel I got a profession. I can say and I know what I'm doing. I know where I want to go, and I have my family. I have 2 cats. I have my girlfriend. I got, you know, I set up myself, and that's something I'm really proud of. Unfortunately, my family is still back in Colombia, and, you know, they haven't been able to see where I live. I know everything I have, but I'm in a very good place, and really thankful to a lot of people that's been around, and to myself. You know, I've done it all.
Where's the one restaurant that you love going in Melbourne that you would recommend to everyone?
Well, I don't like. I became vegetarian around 2 years ago. So you know, Colombian food, it's about meat. So there is one restaurant that is actually really good. That's Colombian. That is in around these areas in Melbourne, and it's called Tucan. I recommend you guys to check it out. It's a Colombian food. And then it's another one in the other side of the town that's called La Tienda, which is Colombian food as well. So it's really good. But I mean, you know, I'm a vegetarian, so I try to go for those places.
You mentioned that you're a vegetarian. How important is food and nutrition for a futsal player or a football player going forward? Previously, it wasn't taken into consideration. It was just try to smash everything down. Now, how important do you feel is getting a right balance of a diet and training program?
Well, I mean, this is not only important for futsal players and for you know, football players. It's important for everyone. It's health is something that you really need to look forward, and nutrition is part of it. You know, a lot of people don't put too much thought in what they eat, and that's something that you really need to do in order for you to, as I said, to try to maximize what you can give. You know, not even if you're only performing, but we'll put in it to performance. You need to make sure you do everything it's around you, all the tools you can ever use to be the best you can be. So I will definitely, think put some toys on your foot.
Well, Camilo, thank you so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it. We can't thank you enough. You've been fantastic to watch on the court and off the court too. Good luck with One Football. So if you want to get in touch with Camilo, go to his Facebook page and also Instagram, One Football. Camilo, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And look, stay safe, and hopefully we can see you back on the court soon.
Thank you, amigo. I really appreciate it. I had a great time.
Thanks. Have a good night.
All right.
Bye.
You too, man.